Forging a successful career path begins from your foundation, a foundation of quality and professional education. It is a weapon of transformation and a passport to the future. It marks credibility and years of training thousands of professionals in HND, BTech, BSc, and MBA in the schools of business and management sciences, engineering and education, with remarkable mentorship from the University of Bamenda for the BTech and MBA and the University of Boya for the BSc program is second to none. From committed professors and lecturers in classrooms to numerous academic field trips, internships and workshops, HIPMAP will reform and guide you towards your success. Admissions are now open in our Boya and Douala campuses. Join us. Together, we will build a legacy.
HIPMAP is what it is today because of its excellent and competent teachers.
You choosing HIPMAP will be the perfect place to gain that professionalism that you need to further your educational career.
The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, the University Institute for Professionals.
Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to another edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We this day are going to be looking at three key topics touching on the lives of Cameroonians and Africans as a whole. We are going to start with the story coming out of Kumbo, capital town of Bui division of the Northwest region, where it was reported early in the day that pupils and teachers were kidnapped by armed men. We have information that the pupils were released and that the teachers are still under the custody of their kidnappers. We equally are going to be talking about what many Cameroonians have been clamoring for, asking whether the men of God in Cameroon can stand the gap to call for an effective end to the ongoing crisis in the southwest and northwest region. We are going to end the program with a discussion on what is unfolding out there at the Ivory Coast, where the incumbent President Ouattara has been declared a winner of the presidential elections with a percentage of above 94%. That is giving his party a landslide victory. Also disturbing information coming from along the Kumba highway, where we are getting information that passengers who left Manfi today were held at around Manyeme the whole day, as early as 7 a.m. today, claiming that the road was blocked by separatist fighters. We do not know how the situation is today. We are going to be discussing this with our panelists who are already seated in the house. Apostle Ambi Valentine Ngwa is in the house with us this evening. Good evening and welcome, Apostle.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, my co-panelists. Good evening, Cameroonians and viewers of Prime Hour, which is a talk of the nation. We are here again to bring very vital and heart-burning information to educate the audience of Cameroon at home and abroad. Thank you once more again for this privilege to address you. God bless you.
We also are in the company of Apostle Gabin Honoré Echapchat. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to all our viewers across the nation. Special greetings to our people in Kumba. We still have our heart bleeding with what took place there some few days ago. So I want to greet them, particularly this evening, and say we are praying for them, we are with them. Good evening to my co-panelist.
Dr. Ernest Busi, who is an educationist who teaches at the University of Boya and a militant of the CPDM party, is here with us. Good evening, Doctor, and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, dear co-panelists. Mr. Leo will be analyzing critical issues that affect our society, especially Cameroon. And Mr. Leo, I want to say that our people are in psychosocial trauma. Our people are in psychosocial injury. And it is high time the psychological manipulation end, Mr. Moderator, because people are really dying, people are in pain. It has to end for peace.
It's time for the healing of the land.
We need healing. We need psychosocial healing.
That's why the men of God are here. They're going to tell us how. Also with us for the very first time is Madame Go Batiki Marie Ange, who is a militant for the Cameroon Renaissance Party, CRM. Madame, bonsoir et bienvenue.
Bonsoir, bonsoir à tout le monde, bonsoir aux téléspectateurs, bonsoir aux co-panélistes.
Ça va?
Ça va aller.
Ok, nous sommes contents de vous avoir pour la première fois sur notre plateau. I'll start with you with the situation out there in Kumbo, Apostle Ambe, Valentine Angwa, while still touch schools at this time. How do we understand what is happening?
Mr. Leo, they say where there is no vision, people perish. I think all the activities taking place of late is a sign that people have lost vision. I don't see how kidnapping children or pupils from a school campus is going to solve the problem, and it's part of the request you are submitting to the state. The arrest of little children, the killing of children is only aggravating the situation to the extent whereby even the people who used to have support and used to defend the guys are actually losing confidence in the people. You cannot be eating what you are struggling to protect. If at all we call for schools resumption, is because we know that a nation can only advance when people grow in their minds. And if we are giving children the opportunity to go back to school and people keep kidnapping them, shooting them in school campuses, I think it's a very serious problem. The kidnap of pupils in Presbyterian School, Kumbo, and teachers is uncalled for, because I think that one is not a submission, it's not a worry, it's not even a complaint. It's disturbance and called public nuisance. So I think all those who are part of that useless act should come back to their senses, because it's not necessary.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We are coming right back to continue with the program. What's the problem?
The socio-political crisis has destroyed Kumba. There is no business going on in Kumba. All business people have taken off from Kumba. There is just nothing moving in Kumba. So this peace initiative is so relevant to the entire city.
Where there is love and there is no peace, there's nothing. These two must go together. There must be peace so that there is love, and there must be love so that there is peace. And that's why I came here, because I'm an advocate.
But how we call him, he bring the right people together. Science come inside.
Constitution, they come inside. If you know me, I be this here because the thing be only 1 month.
And if you say this thing will inside, it will take you time.
The God will be up.
Don't you say, maybe we are Papa. We say, may we go beg God, the Almighty God. So may He take control. May He come take control of our land, bring peace and prosperity for our land.
For Macron here, as we talk about time now, na time full Sidwan.
That gunshot, then kidnapping and some other kind of thing, the way they used to happen. And I believe, say, maybe after this peace, where they don't pray today, so think them go there fine.
Hello, Condre. Hello, Condre. Hello, Condre. Hello, Condre.
Hello there, welcome to the first edition of In the House for the month of July. We feel so excited that we are on the second half of 2020. Hooray! Because it's not really been easy, it's been the toughest year.
Donc il faut que les gens, avant de dire, de décider de se marier, il faut qu'ils aillent étudier ce que c'est que le mariage.
Thank you. So we want you to share with us why it's so hard to accept a rejection.
Like, cheating is not even acceptable.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get into a relationship and you think that you should be the one to hurt the other person all the time. If there is true love, you'll not even do that to your wife.
Can we really stop complaining?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's normal to rain, but when it rains and everywhere is just flooded. I mean, on a third road with no drainage, everywhere is flooded. You cannot even in a taxi, you have to sit and carry your feet up. Man,
Ce n'est pas évident pour cet homme-là qui a mis déjà sa raison de côté, a commencé à utiliser ses émotions, de se retrouver maintenant avec une femme qui...
Sorry for that technical hitch. As earlier announced, we were going to be discussing about the situation in Kumbo, where pupils and teachers were kidnapped at the Presbyterian school, Kumbo. Equally looking at the situation out there in Cote d'Ivoire, where Alassane Dramane Ouattara has been declared winner with above 94% of the votes. But we were going to focus on the role that men of God are supposed to play as far as taming the ongoing crisis rocking the troubled southwest and northwest regions of our country. Equally looking at the situation of travelers who left Manfi for Kumba this morning, who were blocked as early as 7 a.m. by separatist leaders. We do not know their fate, whether finally the route blockade was lifted by separatists or whether they still are doing that stretch that links Manfi, chief town of Manu Division, and Kumba, chief town of Mehmet Division. Good evening once more. We were already discussing before we had a technical itch. We were with you, Apostle Ambe Valentine, understanding why the kidnapped situation out there in Kumbo today.
Yes, as I earlier said, when there is no vision, people perish. When a war has lost its focus and doesn't actually know what they are demanding for, they will start focusing on directions that are not very necessary. From the initial start of this crisis, people had a challenge. They wanted a change of government, or they wanted to secede from the main state. Kidnapping children, I don't see how it fits into what they are demanding. I'm wondering if kidnapping children is part of their requests that is submitted. Because when you start dancing in between two opinions, it's a clear indication that you don't actually know what you want. One of the things that makes any revolution outstanding is consistency. If you are coming for secession, concentrate on secession. And all these other mechanisms put in place that falls back on the common man is instead causing people to lose popularity and instead making you lose relevance in front of your own people. Stopping education is not a cure to the crisis. You stopped it for 4 years and nothing has happened. You kidnap children now, it's not going to create any impact, because the same day you were kidnapping children, others were going to school. Don't forget that recently, the gruesome murder of children in Kumba could not stop schools from going on. If killing could not stop children from going to school, do you think kidnapping will do the magic? I think we should have a rethink, re-strategize, and then be able to know what we actually want, because as a matter of fact, now like this, nobody actually knows what these guys want at all, to be frank.
Okay, your reaction when you got information that students or pupils have been kidnapped, though they say they have been released, but the teachers are still under custody, that money was requested severally from either the church for the guys.
You know, Mr. Leo, when a pig start eating our own children, it means that the future is compromised. It's compromised because the children stand to represent the future. And if these people start bringing the struggle at the level of the children, killing the children, kidnapping the children, doing things against the children, it means there is no future again for the population of the southern Cameroon, because the children can't be involved into what they are fighting for. If they have any demand or anything they are fighting for, it should be for the children, not against the children. And now when they are coming and are trying to kidnap the children, it means, like the other panelists said, that they have lost focus. But I would say that they have been transformed now into what they call grand bandits. So they are no more fighters. There are no more those who are standing for their population, but they are turned to be thieves, because they are now looking for money to sponsor their personal interests. They are no more looking at the interests of the people, the interests of the people that they believe they are standing for.
Okay. Can we understand that our schools are not safe at this moment? Because if in Kumba we saw the killings, and now we are seeing kidnapping in Kumbo, all chieftowns of different chieftowns of different divisions, one in the southwest, the other in the northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. I want to say that the psycho-dissonance that they are creating on these children is not good. The fear factor that they are creating on these children is not good. The nervousness that they are creating on these children is not good, whether the Amber boys or whoever. I want to say that education is the fundamental human right for every child. And I think that for the past 4 years, majority of children have not been going to school. And at the end of the day, what has happened? It has caused a lot of school dropout. It has caused a lot of deviant behavior among children. So these children did not call for any crisis. And I want to say that young children are very vulnerable. It is our responsibility as a people to protect the children. And if you're fighting for a life cause, there is no need for you to hinder the education of a child, because education is what builds a child. And I want to say that the non-state actors who are abroad and stopping children not to go to school, they should understand that they went through formal education. And formal education is what transformed them, is what shaped them to become what they are today. And I want to say that the common man has been in pain for over 4 years now in the northwest and southwest. And this is, we cannot mix politics with education. And I want to say that the psychological manipulation and blame game must stop. We have to be proactive. And I think that if you are fighting a cause, you should look for solutions to the political table. And I feel that we can only solve our problem through genuine dialogue where we compromise, when we are assertive. And I want to say that issues of barbarism, issues of kidnapping, issues of paying money to the separatists will not solve this problem. I think that we have to look at the root cause, and the government has provided a roadmap in which we can look for we can solve this problem, though we are not pleased with it. And I feel that we can only solve our own problem through the dialogue table, not through guns. And looking at these young children, adolescents, and so, looking at the barbaric nature of the killing in Kumba, I want to say that that torture is still affecting the minds of children, is still affecting the dissonance of parents, and it is high time the separatists know that you cannot solve a problem by stopping education. Even in Afghanistan, even in war-torn countries, children are still going to school because they are the future leaders of tomorrow. They need education to shape their mind. They need education to shape their emotions. We need to picturize the future. Even if tomorrow you were to be given that independence you want, who are those to lead? You must dialogue with the government. You must be solution-based. And I think that the common man have suffered a lot psychologically and socially. The common man have suffered. There's poverty in the northwest and southwest. Let's allow children go to school because it's their fundamental right, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, it's their fundamental right. The fact that children were killed in a school in Kumba, children were also kidnapped, and the teachers in PS Kumbo. Do we see the need, the urgency for this crisis to come to an end? Because however we look at it, it is the lives of children that are put at risk here.
Mr. Leo, we didn't even have to wait to this extent to put an end to the crisis. The carnage that has taken place initially alone is enough to stop the crisis. I keep asking the $1 million question, that how many people are we still to bury again in order for the crisis to stop? Beginning from the children in Gabu, people came up, condemn. Baby Mata, the massacre in Pinin and Menka, and all the other atrocities. Military that have died in their numbers were carried in trucks and piled like bags of rice to be buried. They are people's children. On both sides, the government is losing, the civilians are losing. Now, the purpose for this crisis has not been achieved, neither by the government, neither by the separatists. Now the trouble has fallen upon the common masses, because you don't hear separatists being killed again as before. You don't hear military being killed again as before. This day we hear of children. What is the role of children in a crisis like this? What crime have they committed to go to school? I'm saying that people can bear something for some time. Like Bob Marley say, you can fool some people for some time, you cannot fool them all the time. People have waited for 4 consecutive years, trusting and believing God that somehow the closure of schools or the arrest of schools was supposed to bring a proper solution to this problem, but unfortunately it has not brought any solution to the problem. Everyone has come to the consciousness right now that boycotting school is not a solution to the challenge. They've taken upon themselves the responsibility to send their children back to school. Now this is happening. All these threats will never solve the problem, because the children we just buried recently in Kumba was supposed to have been a threat that will cause every parent to send their children to school. But so amazing, children were still going back to school. Even when the children died, parents sent the children back to school, and they said there was an uproar everywhere, people were running helter-skelter. Children were still going to school. It's to tell you that the population has come to a place that they are not willing anymore to succumb to anything that would jeopardize the destiny of their children. Now, we have to understand that if parents were giving their accord for children to stay home initially, and they have taken a U-turn, listen to me, you can take a horse to the stream, but you can never force that horse to drink water. That will be the last kick of a dying horse if you keep on insisting that children will not go to school. We have called parents to stop their children from going to school, they succumb. They thought that sacrificing their children's education for 4 years will bring a solution, but it has brought much pain and frustration. They've also come to this understanding, just the way we instill the ideology in them to drop their children out of school, the ideology to send the children back to school has equally come back. You cannot take them from that one. Even the killing of children, kidnapping of children, we never stop from sending. So devise another means to solve the problem. There are many ways to catch a rat. You must not insist on one particular method, because if somebody has an antidote to your one approach, you will fail in life. Even God himself doesn't have one particular way. If the strategy of boycotting school is not working, I can tell you, trying to force it now will only cause the population to rebel against you. Get yourself put together, strategize, and make sure you go and get another approach to address this issue, because the school boycott will not work anymore. It will not work. Whether people force it or what, it won't work. That's the clear reality.
Okay, it is the clear reality. Somebody was writing to me to find out whether there was a problem. I should tell them so that they start reacting. I don't know why you want to start reacting. No, it was a technical problem we had here in our studio. Madame Go Bateki Marie-Ange of the CRM movement. Comment comprendre les enlèvements dans une école à Kumbo après les tueries qu'il y a eu à Kumba la semaine passée?
Justement, c'est incompréhensible parce que après ce qui s'est passé, les pleurs, les dénonciations et tout, on espérait qu'il y aura une certaine sécurité dans les établissements scolaires, où on pourrait mettre soit des vigiles, soit des policiers, je ne sais pas, même l'armée, comme on l'a toujours proposé la dernière fois. Mais bon, curieusement, parce que c'est presque la même scène qui se passe à Kumba, où les malfrats arrivent, on ne sait pas d'où ils viennent, et ils font leur coup, ils repartent. La même chose se passe à Kumbo. Ils arrivent aussi, ils enlèvent les enseignants, pas 1, pas 2, pas 3, au vu et au su de tout le monde, et finalement on ne sait plus. On dirait que c'est une manière de montrer aux gens du Nozo de ne plus aller à l'école. Parce que hier c'était des enfants, aujourd'hui c'est des enseignants. Et je ne sais pas si c'est parce que certains ont attiré l'attention des gens par rapport aux enfants qu'on avait tués, que les enseignants étaient où? Les enfants qui étaient morts à Kumba. On avait demandé où étaient les enseignants ce jour-là. Les enfants étaient à l'école seuls. Aucun enseignant ne s'est présenté pour dire, bon voilà, pendant qu'on attaquait mes enfants, peut-être j'étais au petit coin ou quoi que ce soit. Aujourd'hui, c'est les enseignants qu'on l'enlève. Pour nous, c'est incompréhensible. Parce que hier, c'était Kumba. Comme on le disait, hein, on l'a revendiqué, que hier, c'était Kumba. Aujourd'hui, c'est Kumbo. Oui. Demain, c'est quoi? Ce sera Manfé ou bien Woum ou je ne sais pas moi. Donc, il faut que ça s'arrête. Et qu'on arrête d'utiliser, de faire les mascarades, d'accuser les uns et les autres. Parce que là, il y a urgence. Il y a l'éducation qui est en jeu, l'éducation des enfants, parce que ces enfants doivent s'instruire. Ou bien, si nous voulons faire du Nozo une zone des bandits, où comme il y a la guerre, après la guerre, ce sera la guerre, après la guerre, ce sera le banditisme, après, ainsi de suite. Vraiment, il faut que les uns et les autres, que ce soit les sécessionnistes, qui ont leurs revendications, mais qu'ils comprennent qu'ils mettent en mal le futur du Nozo. Le futur du Nozo. Et que ces revendications qu'ils font aujourd'hui, par exemple, peuvent les rattraper demain. Okay. Parce que nous voulons l'équilibre sociologique, nous voulons l'équilibre dans l'éducation. C'est-à-dire, il ne faut pas que si moi je suis sécessionniste et que mes enfants soient incapables de s'instruire. Et puis, ce que nous revendiquons, c'est les gens qui ont les moyens, qui pourront envoyer leurs enfants à l'école, parce que les autres ne souffrent pas. Leurs enfants sont à Douala. Moi, j'ai des voisins qui fréquentent, du Nozo qui fréquentent normalement. Leurs enfants sont à l'étranger. C'est nos mamans qui n'ont pas assez de moyens, qui restent sur place, et que ces enfants, demain après-demain, vont subir. Et ils ne vont pas subir seuls, parce que toi qui viendras maintenant que tu as fréquenté, tu mérites peut-être un grand poste. Ces délinquants vont te nuire automatiquement, parce que eux, ils n'auront rien pendant que toi tu aurais tout eu.
Okay, Apostle, there is always this issue of taking responsibilities out of Cameroon. When there is a crisis and an action like this is committed, somebody takes responsibility. But for the past 3-4 years, hardly do we hear people outrightly accepting that we are responsible for this. Does this not also make most of the parties irresponsible because you don't engage in something and never claims responsibility for what is happening?
Of course, of course. Like you said, of course.
At least let people know why you are engaging.
Why?
With this. Yeah.
Of course, because when you are such a crisis, in fact, where we have two parties, the two of them are claiming some things. So when we see those kind of actions, at least they should be brave enough to come out and say, I've done this, I've done that. If they want to prove to the people that what they have carried as actions are legal, or their intention is clear about it, it should be important and good that they should come out and say it plainly so that the people should understand.
Yeah, because I understand that when Al-Qaeda does something, they say we did this, because when ISIS does this, they say we did it.
They admit, yes, that they have killed, that they have bombed. They say they plan it and they prepare, they did that. But in our own context, we are not seeing it. We will not say that maybe our people are cowards. We will not say that they are just like saying things or doing things that they are not able to stand for. But, Mr. Leo, they even will not go so far to ask them to come and, admit and claim those kind of acts, because they are not too good. They are not too good. When this crisis started, people believed that the struggle was for pure claims. The claims were legitimate. The claims were clean. But as the thing entered into armed conflict, things gradually deteriorated, became worse and worse, bad and bad. And if today we are not calling the two parties to stop, to cease fire, that both the government like the separatists, I would like to emphasize more on the government. Why? Because some other persons say the government has the yam and the knife. I'm not saying this to minimize what the separatists are doing. No, I'm not saying this to minimize. Some of us have been watching some documentaries where you see that when some bandit goes to rob a bank, and when they succeed to enter the bank, they get some people as hostages. And when the police comes, the police goes for negotiation because they want to preserve the life of the hostages. So this is to say that at this level, at this point in time, the government should do more effort, though they are doing already some effort, but more effort should be done to preserve the life of the innocent, because we have all realized that neither the separatists are dying nor the military are dying, but they are the innocent people dying. So it is the responsibility, I think in the preamble of the Constitution, the head of state is called here as the guarantor of the security of his people. So something more has to be done so that innocent people will not die. Innocent people will not die. It's too much. We are coming now to see how our children are dying. They will leave the children because mothers are already dying. Now they will leave the children. What next? What next? So I'm calling on the government. We acknowledge their effort. We are not just trying to bully on the government or to condemn the government. We are saying, no, you have the knife and the yam. You can do more. We are not neglecting what or trying to minimize what the separatists are doing. We are saying at this time in point, there should be a ceasefire for the war to end and let people go on a pure negotiation dialogue, because in a dialogue there will be compromise. In a dialogue we will understand that these parties want this and we want this. We can come to a legal ground and see how things can work, because this is what is important. We are called to live together whether we want it or not. So it's important that the government should continue with the effort to make sure that this kind of killing or what is taking place now in the Nozo or in the southern Cameroon should stop.
Yes, what should the community itself do to ensure, because there was a National Day of Mourning. We saw mothers come out in Kumba, in Douala, in Yaoundé, and everywhere to talk about, to decry the killings in Kumba. And today we have kidnappings in Kumbo. And we were talking even yesterday that after the National Day of Mourning, what next? We already are seeing kidnappings. What should the community do to stop this?
Mr. Leo, I will not undermine what the women did. Yes. I want to say that they pass a message no matter what, because the stress is too much, the depression is too much, the fear is too much on the people, the pain is too much on the people. And the women just came out to denounce that. And they pass a message. This message, we have been suffering over time and space. Our children have been dying. Our loved ones have been dying. We have been grieving. There's that denial process. And Mr. Moderator, I want to say that when you look at that pain the people have been passing through over time and space, and the solution is peace is a process, I want to say that at this juncture, at this point in time, we must go back to community way of life, where parents and everyone in the neighborhood must act as a psychotherapist. And how can we do that? I think that we need a kind of talk therapy to this to the separatists. We need a kind of mind therapy where people can have sanity, where these amber leaders, where these ambers in the bush can think rationally.
Yeah, but
I'm also talking on the military also.
It's war.
No, people need to talk. They are their children, and I feel that they need to talk to them. We need a talk therapy, and I feel that, Mr. Moderator, when pain is too much, it leads to psychoarousal. And what is psychoarousal? It leads to a lot of stress hormones that triggers, and it makes people to behave the way they behave. And I think this is the juncture at which all of us in the community, we must act as a people to denounce all this pain. And how should we do this? On both parties. I feel that it is a time where everybody must be a counselor. We need to empower these people with a kind of positive psychotherapy, a kind of positive psychotherapy that they should know that they cannot be fighting a war and killing their own people.
Dr. Butsi, can persons act independently, individually, or as a community? Can you walk into a separatist camp to talk to them?
It's not like walking into their camp. There are a lot of ways to do that.
Can you walk into a military camp to talk to them?
I think that it's possible to walk into a military camp and talk to the military. And with the separatists also must work on their dissonance. Because first of all, the fear factor is there. The issue here is that we have to be honest, we have to be genuine to solve this problem. If we are blaming the government, we should also blame the other part. Both parties are also harming the people. The people are in pain. We have seen situations where houses have been set ablaze, where the common man is suffering, they are IDPs, some are refugees. We accept that. We have seen situations that why children have been hindered not from going to school. It is our responsibility as a people to denounce this. I think that if we come out with a single voice as a people to denounce these separatists, to stop all this violent killing, it will end. It's a matter of us as a people looking at the people and telling them the truth. So if we are honest to the separatists to tell them the truth, I think that we can solve this problem. It's a matter of us being genuine. And I've not seen that situation. That fear factor is still within the people. And I think that if the people come out genuinely to denounce the separatists, this war will end. And I think that the separatists also have to be calm on the people. And the military's responsibility is to protect the people and protect their properties. And I feel that both extremes, they have to calm down. They have to bring a kind of defense mechanism where they are there to control the people, not their own ego. And I feel that both parties have caused harm. It is a responsibility for us now to look at the way forward. And what is the way forward? Stopping children not going to school will not solve our problem. The way forward is for us to dialogue and the government have provided the way for dialogue. And if it's not enough, we should hit on the government, we should not hit on the common man. You cannot be hitting on the common man that is already in psychosocial pain, that is already in poverty, that life is so difficult on the common man, and you are stopping young children not to go to school. And the schooling of young children is not something that we can debate on. It is their right, it is their duty to go to school. And I feel that when you look at the way they are thinking, the separatists in the bushes are thinking, they do not think normally again. That's why I say we need a lot of therapies. We need to work because it's a period of trauma. And to meet them in the bushes, it takes a lot of risks. And we can only do that when government also is assertive to compromise to talk to these people. When the separatist leaders also are brought also are assertive and willing to come down on their high horse and talk with the government.
Ok, docteur. Yes. Qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire pour que ça ne continue pas?
Je viens d'écouter un peu ce que
le docteur dit.
Où il dit aux séparatistes, à la population de dénoncer les séparatistes. Je veux savoir au juste, êtes-vous sûr que c'est les séparatistes qui font tous ces dégâts-là dans ce qui s'est passé soit à Kumba ou à Kumbo? Nous, on veut la paix. Et la paix n'est pas qu'on indexe certaines personnes sans preuve. Parce que nous avons eu l'expérience de Garbour, où on a indexé les séparatistes et certaines personnes ont eu même des menaces et après les résultats sont sortis. Donc évitons de toujours indexer les gens d'en face pour une malversation quelconque. Pourquoi? Parce que rien ne prouve que c'est les séparatistes qui font tous ces désordres. Rien ne le prouve, jusqu'à preuve de contraire. Pour le moment, ce que nous attendions, c'est que l'armée, qui est censée protéger la population, protège au moins cette population. C'est-à-dire, même s'ils sont, comme on le dit, avec eux, dont la population protège les séparatistes. Mais si l'armée était présente pour protéger les populations, je ne crois pas que, après ce qui s'est passé à Kumba, après ce que les gens ont revendiqué, on aurait eu des problèmes, mais pas plus dans les établissements scolaires. Parce que ça, c'est une manière soit de se moquer de nous. Quand je dis de se moquer de nous, vraiment, je parle entre guillemets. Parce que, je le dis, soit ceux qui font ces actes. Je parle de ceux qui commettent ces actes. Je ne sais pas de qui c'est, mais c'est une moquerie. Parce que à peine tu viens de tuer, de décapiter les enfants, ça ne fait pas encore 2 semaines, tu enlèves les gens. C'est de quel côté? Des sécessionnistes, ça veut dire que l'armée a échoué. De l'armée, ça veut dire que les sécessionnistes ont échoué parce que eux aussi, habitant dans cette population, ça dit que parmi eux, ont aussi quelque part le devoir. Parce que je suis du Nord-Ouest. Un sécessionniste, c'est mon frère, c'est mon cousin. Donc il a le devoir de me protéger en tant que son frère, en tant que son cousin. Parce que les gens de l'armée n'ont pas trop, je ne sais pas, je ne fais pas les comptes, je ne peux pas regarder, mais si vous partez, vous regardez dans les membres de l'armée, les militaires qui sont là-bas, il n'y a pas assez de...
Madame, we are going to continue. On va continuer. Je prends quelques messages. Hey, hi to all. This goes to the pastor. In situations like this in other countries, we have seen the work of the church and men of God. As example, we can't forget Janani Luum of Uganda, Desmond Tutu of South Africa, Emmanuel Milingo of Zambia. What is the church and men of God are doing to resolve the situation in Cameroon? Why is the church silent? Mondi is writing from Limbe. Mondi, that is our next topic for discussion today. They got you 5 on 5. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Nancy from Kumbo. I really admire your program, but the fact at this point is in time is that we are tired of these separatist fighters, for they have tormented us enough. I think it is time we, the population, stand up and say no to separatists. Enough is enough. Okay, Nancy, writing from Kumbo. Really hope I'll keep your number because I needed to talk to somebody in Kumbo today. Good day, Leo. To answer your question, there was one attack on the security forces in November 2017 in Kumbo village, where 4 gendarmes officers were killed when the president was in Ivory Coast for the Francophonie summit. On hearing the news, he cut short his visit and returned to the country on the 30th of November 2017, and upon arrival at the Yaoundé airport, held a crisis meeting with his military generals and declared a war against the so-called terrorists of the southwest and northwest regions. What triggered the attacks on the security forces is what most of us are shy to say. The massacre of over 100 peaceful protesters on the 22nd of September 2017 in the south and northwest regions, and another massacre again of people who took to the streets to symbolically celebrate the 1st of October 2017 in both regions, as their Independence Day was the trigger of the attack. Attacks by the military, including the use of helicopter gunships in Bamenda. People easily forget and talk of different things. On the 1st of October 2017, as people, mostly youths, went out in celebration, elites of the CPDM rallied in Douala and also celebrated the 1st of October 2017. That meeting was in Yaoundé, I remember vividly, as a counter strategy with a speech read by Chief Tabetando, who was then Vice President of the Senate. That was in Yaoundé at the Reunification Monument. In one of your shows, you rebutted the kangaroo man that Peter Mafani Musonge during the Southwest Elite meeting in Boya, and in his speech did not say that the Northwesterners are the problem makers in the two regions. I also listened to the speech and he categorically said so. Go back to the archives if one was kept and listen to it again. When people say arms were taken against the government, is a false narrative. Those who took up the arms were forced to the wall. Let's be calling. Okay, good evening to you. I don't know who is writing. I would have loved to have your name, but good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. All happenings in Cameroon now is concerns this crisis is caused and the blames by the Yaoundé regime, cause they go on saying everything is under control and there are no problems, but yet armor cars, war jeeps, and thousands of military are applying the two regions every day. Where is the claim? Okay, Samuel is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Samuel. Hello, Mr. Leo. All need is education and not gone. Ako Lawrence is writing. Okay, Christian writing from Upstation in Bamenda said, good evening, Mr. Liu, and the panel concerning the kidnappings of students and teachers in Kumbo is a clear indication that you cannot give what you don't have. Most of these Amber boys are illiterate and does not know what important schools are for. These are kids. Most of them have no focus again, and they are now fighting for their belly full. Let the government do something so urgently to end the crisis. Romanos, son of the soil, writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Romano. Okay, hi Leo. It's Kalis from Yaoundé. I'm very sure these separatists don't know why they are fighting. So please, the government should take control and the population should stand up and denounce them. And please, if they want to continue killing, they should look for their families of those sending them money. Kalis Choka is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Clinton, writing from Bamenda. Let's implement new laws for freedom of speech in Cameroon. Many people know the truth about everything happening in the ground, but they can't come out to say it because of the way things are managed. I have been hearing about advanced democracy, but when journalists interview people, they are afraid to talk because they know what the government is capable of doing. On another platform, a young man was afraid to talk about a fire incident that took place in Bamenda where are we heading to? We are going to move on to our second topic, which has to do with what the men of God can do to stand the gap for the Cameroonians to solve this problem. Apostle, lots and lots of persons are already asking what men of God are doing. Somebody wrote from Limbe asking that same question. Do you think that the men of God have been sidelined all this while as far as seeking a solution to this problem is concerned?
I don't think so. Okay. The men of God have not been sidelined. The issue is when a trouble or a challenge happens in a country, individuals must take responsibility to contribute their own quota. The government is not supposed to invite anybody to participate in solving the crisis before we can know how relevant we are. Saying that the men of God have been silent, I beg to disagree with that, because I, for one, as a servant of God, have been on different TV platforms debunking both what the government is doing, which is not good, as well as what the separatists do, which is not good. I cannot say as an individual I've been taking a responsibility all alone. The Church of God in Cameroon is first of all spiritual in nature. And knowing fully whether this battle we are going through is more of a spiritual battle than a physical battle, we are tackling it spiritually. And it's often that it's very normal that the church can be carrying out spiritual exercise from behind to tame the crisis without making it public. And that doesn't mean that the church is not participating or working something extremely hard to solve the crisis. The second thing we have to understand is this. When we are dealing with things spiritually, they begin to manifest physically. You will realize the days are going by. As the years are advancing, the crisis is not as intense as it was in the beginning. Do you think that's because of what the government is doing or what the separatists are doing? Some people are at the backside of the desert who are handling things from a spiritual point of view, and they are dealing with the forces on ground. One of the things we don't understand is that we believe that those who come on air and project themselves as problem solvers are actually the problem solvers. They are not. Most of the times, those who are operating spiritually, you don't see them. Just like the forces operating behind the crisis in Cameroon, you don't see the marabouts, the witch doctors and the Rosicrucians come on air to show that they are the ones instigating the shedding of human blood and drinking of human blood and eating of human flesh. They don't do that. So you don't expect pastors also to come on air and show them how they are praying. We must not organize prayer in stadiums, in our churches, and put them on television to tell the world that we are praying for Cameroon. We are praying for Cameroon. And there are practical steps we are taking to solve the crisis equally. Pastors gather, they talk about issues. There's even an association of pastors in Cameroon who are working strategies on how to go about with the crisis. That somebody does not come on television to come on, just like when people are killed, they come on Facebook and say, I condemn, I condemn. Those who actually come to condemn on Facebook are not all those who are sympathizing with those who were killed. There are also killers who are condemning on Facebook. This showmanship on social media these days is what is costing a lot of people. There are a lot of people who never show you how desperate they are in their life. They will dress well and come on social media and project themselves to be wonderful people who they are not. So this social media presentation is what is killing you. This you must know, that the church, today a group of bishops, Monseigneur in Yaoundé, Bishop Kleda, they went to Condemnation to go and seek Ayuktabe, who has published it. Nobody has gone to publish it. They came from Rome. They went down to sell Ayuktabe. They were blocked at Condemnation to go and take a permit to enter the prison. That's not something that has come on air. Who has published it? Nobody has published it. Do you know that the church is working underground in that capacity? You will not know. So let us keep aside the issue of the fact that somebody has come on air on television. What are the men of God doing? We are doing more than what you even expect.
Okay. Now, what do we do? What should the capital role should the church be playing in times of crisis, like the crises that are ongoing in the southwest and northwest region of Cameroon?
I believe the role of the church is to bring the peace, is to try to bring justice and equity in such a crisis. The church, is true, has been doing a lot, but sometimes the other people who are talking, I beg your pardon, they want to see the church like they're seeing other NGOs and other people trying to solve the crisis. But to bring to the memories, I remember Cardinal Toomey has tried to bring a dialogue, an Anglophone dialogue, which was stopped because the government did not see into it as a solution to the crisis. But I believe if the government allows the church to really take its place, the church has more to give has more to give, because this problem is not just about political solutions. We have said it is also spiritual, and it's more spiritual than even physical, because we know the world is being ruled by forces. So if the government really opens up to the church and allow the church to play its role, the church will play the role, because there are some initiatives that the church has tried to carry, but which were being stopped by the government. I've quoted the one of Cardinal Tumi. My other panelists quoted the one of Bishop Cleda and the other bishop who went to the prison to see Ayokta Sisitiku. So there are those kind of things. So we, the church, were instead using this platform to ask the government to allow the church to express and to play its own role. Because each time the church wants to come out, it's like, you know, the government does not give room to the church. I've seen another communique from one of the church member, another pastor, who wrote to the government and proposed to the government that the government should look for means to allow the church people, the pastor, to go and preach to the people in the bushes. That is, preaching the peace and the reconciliation is something important. We can't neglect it, because we know if pastors go there, pastors are not amen.
Pastor Apostle Gabon, do you need the government to allow you to go and preach to people in the bush?
But of course, because the government is the one controlling the territory. The government is the one, yes.
Are you saying that they should accompany you with amen?
We are not saying that the government should give the go-ahead. The government should like encourage, because when the person that wrote it to send it as a proposal to the government is not asking the government to sponsor or to give anything. The government should like recognize and give a go-ahead to this kind of plan of action. We are not asking, because the government is the one controlling the nation. So it's but normal that when we want to carry out a move, the government should give its go-ahead. It's not like we are asking the government to come and give and sponsor and give some money. But any action that has been taken by the church, the government has not allowed the church to go ahead with the action. What they are setting the church to do.
But practically speaking, what is it that you think you can do to
I spoke about going to preach to the people in the bushes. Yes, it's important, because the government should allow pastors. They should think about this option, that encouraging pastors to go into the bushes, to go to the armed men and talk to them. Is very, very important.
Yes, but should pastors themselves not engage government and engage separatist leaders? Because is it not the Bible that says that the
violent
they suffered the violence and the violent take by force? Now, how do you want now that they should permit you?
No,
well, you
Mr. Leo,
by force, yes.
Mr. Leo, let me say that when you look at most of these separatists, they're in the bushes. They're in the hinterlands. And when you look at the churches in Cameroon, let me look at the Presbyterian Church, the Catholic Church. They are found everywhere in the hinterlands. And I feel that it is the responsibility of some of these church leaders, because we have seen situations where schools have been closed in the hinterlands, but the churches are still holding in the hinterlands. The gospel is still there. So it is a responsibility of all church leaders. They should go to the bushes and preach the gospel to the people. And I feel that they have a lot of role to play. They have a lot of role to play.
Yeah, but they should preach both ways now. Should they only go to
I'm coming there. I'm looking at things from all angles. I think that they have to preach to the people. And they need a kind of spiritual healing. They need to go to the people, convert them. Because we used to see how Christ used to convert. So it is a responsibility of these church leaders to convert these people in the bushes, preach the gospel, and also use all their spirituality to heal these people, to stop. And I feel that the church has been doing, to an extent, they have been doing their job, especially in the church. And in the church, in the context of the church, on Sundays and so on, it's not enough. They have a lot to do. And also their sermons must touch the conscience of people. And this is the time whereby the conscience of each Cameroonian should be touched. It is a time for introspection. That is the role of the church to play that role. That introspection, where it will touch the minds of every Cameroonian to see that solving the Anglophone problem, solving the Anglophone crisis is a collective issue. It is not a responsibility of the government alone or the separatists. It is the responsibility of this government, the separatists, the civil society. And the church also have to be apolitical, meaning that the church should be able to preach to the people in the bushes, to preach to the people in the church and everywhere, to preach and touch the conscience of every Cameroonian, even those in top positions in government. And I feel that it is a responsibility of all these churches. The fear factor has to come out. I feel that men of God are people of integrity. Men of God should be seen as people of... Desmond Tutu came out and fought for the people of South Africa. It is a responsibility of this... I saw a situation in Cameroon where a bishop went to the hinterlands and he was taken by the separatists. So this is a situation whereby if you know that you are a Christian, you are a man of God, you should have no fear. You should have no psychosocial dissonance in you, no fear, no disbelief. It is your responsibility, because if people see you as a role model, you should be able to... Christ died for the people. So I think that the men of God have a lot of responsibility. It is not all about preaching the sermon in the altar. They have to go to the hinterland and do it the way Christ was doing it. They have this. It is the responsibility of men of God to bring peace, because Christ brought peace. So I feel that Christ died for us, and it is a responsibility of some of these leaders to die for us, so that they can clean our land. It is high time, Mr. Modeto. There's a lot of fear factor. I feel that when I watched the installation of the new chief of Kumba, I saw how men of God were talking, and I saw how the chief was even humbled, and he knelt down and they prayed for him. It is high time that they should go to the butchers and convert these separatists, and also touch the minds of those in authority. Soften their psycho dissonance, soften their mind. It is high time everybody calm down psychologically, so that our nation can have that peace.
Ok. Qu'est-ce que les hommes de Dieu doivent faire? Est-ce que l'homme de Dieu doit attendre que le gouvernement les autorise à aller prêcher à ceux qui sont dans la brousse, même au gouvernement?
Autoriser un pasteur à aller prêcher dans la brousse, vraiment, c'est-à-dire que comme on n'a pas fini de mourir, il faut maintenant les envoyer là-bas, disant comme vous êtes des bons pasteurs, votre Dieu va vous protéger, donc allez là-bas. Moi, quand j'ai vu ce raisonnement, c'est pas en ce sens que je pensais. Moi, j'ai pensé à une autre manière, parce que moi, je suis pentecôtiste. Depuis que la guerre a commencé dans mon église, on prie pour cette guerre. Il y a les thèmes. C'est-à-dire, il y a les jours où on dit, aujourd'hui, c'est pour la paix dans le nozo. Maintenant, quand on veut appeler l'église dans le sérieux, c'est-à-dire dans le bon sens, on réunit les pasteurs, les imams, les prêtres, c'est-à-dire que les gens forts spirituellement. Et je vous assure, ils n'ont pas besoin d'aller déloger les séparatistes en brousse. S'ils mettent leurs genoux par terre et qu'ils sont unis avec un même cœur, il y aura le changement. Quand moi j'étais petite, je me rappelle, je ne sais pas si c'était vrai. À une époque, on disait qu'il y avait trop d'accidents sur l'axe lourd Douala-Yaoundé. Et qu'on avait appelé les marabouts pour exorciser cette route. Je ne sais pas si ma mémoire est bonne, mais je me rappelle quand j'étais petite, j'avais entendu une chose pareille. Maintenant, nous avons deux régions que nous sommes en train de prêter. Nous avons les pasteurs que lui dit, si je mets la main comme ça, allez, je te délivre. Pourquoi ne pas se réunir entre eux? Ils n'ont pas besoin, parce que même quand tu pars chez un pasteur pour qu'il fasse un miracle pour ton parent qui est à l'étranger, il n'a pas besoin de voyager pour aller là-bas.
Distance is not a barrier.
Oui.
That's what they say.
No. Ils n'ont pas besoin d'aller là-bas. Donc ce qui veut dire que les vrais pasteurs, parce que n'oubliez pas, on a trop de bonbons pasteurs. C'est ça qui nous tue. C'est-à-dire les pasteurs qui profitent d'un petit miracle, après il devient un grand pasteur, et quand il faut maintenant faire des vrais miracles, il n'y en a pas. Mais l'Église, c'est-à-dire que le noyau que nous servons Dieu peut servir. Parce que la prière, on dit souvent la matière de Dieu fend doucement. C'est-à-dire, elle va, pour que le sang coule, c'est pas facile. Donc, ça veut dire que si les pasteurs, aujourd'hui, je dis bien se mettre ensemble, n'envoyez pas un pasteur qui va dire que non, moi j'ai ressuscité le frère de Jésus, donc je peux aller là-bas. Après, tu entends qu'en un temps de mouvement, on l'a tué. Et ça va frustrer encore d'autres pasteurs. Qu'ils se mettent ensemble, qu'ils mettent leurs genoux par terre. Les pasteurs catholiques nous apprennent des neuvaines, qui nous apprennent la prière à Saint Joseph, qui est le parrain de la guerre, qu'ils nous associent aussi. Hein. Si les pasteurs se mettent ensemble, c'est-à-dire ils organisent une réunion où on voit les pasteurs, les prêtres et tous, et qui disent au Cameroun, aux Camerounais que maintenant, laissons les armes. Ne regardez plus les armes. Mais asseyons-nous. Prenons ce psaume. Lisons-le pour la guerre.
Ok.
Je crois que c'est la meilleure façon que d'envoyer les gens ajouter des morts. Parce que chaque mort...
I just want to add something on to what she said. Because I brought the issue of sending the pastors. You know, when we said sending the pastors, those places have pastors. And it's important that we say that if the pastors in Cameroon, the government like giving the go-ahead for pastors to do it, it's not the pastor who leave Douala to go and preach there because they don't know the pastor from Douala or from Yaoundé. But the pastor from Douala, who is the brother of the pastor from there, they will stand together in prayer, and that man will be commissioned because he knows the people to go and talk to them, and his talking will carry more power. We are not saying that pastors should
once the government comes into it,
yes,
does it not give a political sense into it when we know that anytime something has to do with the government, people say, oh,
it's not in that sense. It's not in the sense because you can't carry an action in the country if the government does not like authorize you to do it.
You know what is killing Cameroon?
Yeah.
The reason Cameroon is that we carry a lot of things to do privately to the public.
Okay.
The churches are under the Ministry of Territorial Administration.
Okay.
And when the Ministry of Territorial Administration is going out on a business, the government sponsors it. Giving food and mattress to IDP is under that ministry. And if pastors are under that ministry, they are supposed to sponsor the... Let us not begin to talk magic here. I don't like sentiment. If the Ministry of Territorial Administration recognizes the responsibility of pastors, we're supposed to have called the pastors, equip them financially and otherwise.
That's question I ask you.
That's what I'm coming.
I want to answer line from the beginning.
I'm asking you.
Yes.
They were supposed to equip the pastors on the ground without the knowledge even of the separatists.
That's what we are saying.
Wisdom.
It's not like official. They should recognize the work of the pastor.
It is their responsibility. The Ministry of the Administration, if they recognize the office of pastor, we're supposed to have called that ministry under them and say, we count on your intelligence and your anointing. We are engaging you into this process. Go there as saints to preach the gospel for us. Meanwhile, we are the ones sponsoring you on the ground. This is not an issue that was supposed to be discussed in the public. It was the Ministry of the Administration that was supposed to have gathered the pastors and make them go on a mission to go and...
My question is, and that's where le problème de sang commence à tomber. Si les vrais pasteurs se mettent vraiment pour prier, ce sera de gauche comme de droite.
Je suis en train d'expliquer quelque chose, madame. Laisse-moi parler.
But there are pastors in the hinterland, they can take the responsibility.
It's not that way.
Let me land.
The pastors, we are working in synergy. The pastors, like he said, the government, we are not asking for a public backing, but the government should recognize the role of the pastors because if pastors, it's not being recognized.
No, listen.
It's not being recognized because we have said it.
I am sure
Bishop Ash, the cardinal, to me, tried to gather men of God, but the government stopped him.
Yes.
We are not coming in because the government has sent us. We are men of God. We are coming in for peace and justice. So whatever is happening, the men of God have to come so that bloodshed should stop.
Let us not argue.
Yeah.
When COVID-19 took place in Ghana, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo call for the clergy to sit down and offer prayers for the COVID-19 before. That is a recognition. In Calabar, Ben Ayade, the governor, when there was to collect taxes, he called the clergymen by recognizing and giving them a responsibility. We have a Minister of Territorial Administration. They are supposed to call us.
Man of God, that's the first question I ask you.
That's what I'm trying to answer you now. He was supposed to assemble pastors as people under his jurisdiction that he recognizes, give a particular budget. Let us stop talking sentiment here. When they are going to give rice and mattresses for IDP, is that minister is carrying it. If they recognize our role that we are carriers of peace and we carry a grace that can stop this, they should carry us as agents. And this is not supposed to be done publicly. He was supposed to have called us from behind, sit a meeting with us, talk with us, and then send us on a mission. Why is that other nations recognized? In Congo, it was a church that assembled themselves and counted the elections. What has Cameroon government done so far by gathering pastors under Minister of Territorial Administration?
It's a community.
You gather DDOs and gather SDOs and gather all kinds of gathering. You don't get poor.
They are just doing.
They are
just doing a community, and that's the way they are looking at the church as a weakness. They don't want such an idea. The government has to come.
We will not beg to help them solve this. They must not our relevance.
It's not a communicable. It's not a communicable prayer that will help the situation.
Okay, let me take some
about real solution.
Let me take some messages. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The pastors need the government's accord, because if they go on their own, they will be considered as working with separatists. My regards to all in the studio. Eshwa is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Eshwa. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Should pastors be motivated before they interfere in the current crisis? Okay.
You don't go to the place we try. They try to go there. Does the minister go to visit Wulek?
Hi, Mr. Liu. I'm writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Gang. Man of God. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I really support what the man with black suit is saying. For true, the government have not or will not give the church the chance to do what is right so that the crisis will have a good face. Mr. Liu, we should not be biting around from all indications. Some top government officials who claim Cameroon belongs to them don't want the problem to end. Best known to them. Samuel is writing from Kumba. Kumba, yeah. Evening. If the church has a role to play, they are also entitled to their own strategy. If the government has painted Cameroonians as terrorists, then dealing with such persons should have the government's endorsement. Because both camps have reached the extreme of their expectations. We don't need to meet the boys in the bushes. Let the church be given the leverage to call the shots without infiltrations. I know what I'm talking about. I was this SG in the planning committee of the communication service in Kumba, and I know the conflicting dynamics that took place. Apostle Collins Wilson, writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Apostle. Greetings to you over there. I think it's high time the church as a whole match and denounce all these evil activities going on in the southwest and northwest regions. I think if the churches lead by their clergies join all the women and march consistently, then I think change will be. Let the clergies become proactive. Clovis is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Clovis. Paddy Asanga says that Leo, please stop talking about unknown gunmen. I told that what happened Kumba and Bui today has been cooked up in Maryland in order to force the Cameroon government to a new Swiss cheese talks where the participants came back with 5,000 euros per person. Let me make this one clear. Any form of negotiations with enablers of the Amba versus Amba, Bui 1 and 2 massacre, Kumba massacre, Bali massacre, Batibo massacre, Libiale massacre, Matom massacre, and lately the Bui kidnappings of pupils and teachers is going to transform some of us to warlords if they dare to parachute political into the political scene. The government should engage all chiefs, funds, imams, syndicates, the youth organizations at home to put an end to this madness. Anyone in the diaspora who love homeland should leave his comfort zone and go back and fight. those Anglophones in Mr. Biya's government encouraging this madness should stop immediately or shall be exposed. I told since December 2017 that the benefactors of this nonsense are hiding in Yaoundé and in the diaspora. Paddy Asanga Abakwaboy writing from Germany. Good evening to you, Paddy. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Love the way you're handling your program. Samuel writing from Bamenda. The issue of killing the kidnappings in our country is sponsored by business people today for personal interest. Our brothers in neighboring regions have invested much in education and real estate to accumulate, to accommodate migrating population. Okay, we are going to continue our discussions. The messages keep flowing in. Now, Apostle, I want us to go back. Though you people started talking without me giving you the floor. Now, Apostle, some people think that the battle is more spiritual than what we see in the physical.
Yes, Mr. Leo, the issue is if we are lopsided in our argument, we're not going to get a balance.
Okay.
Everything that is spiritual has a role physically. If we lean only on the spiritual, practice mysticism. And if we lean only on principles, we are going to fail also. There was to be a balance.
Okay.
In the scriptures, in the book of Exodus, the Bible says in 17 that Moses was to fight against the Amalekites. Joshua was down in the field fighting with sword, while Aaron and Hur held the hand of Moses spiritually. There was a balance of the battle from the spiritual realm to the physical realm. So if we say we are only going to pray and we don't take practical steps, then we are doing mysticism.
Okay.
And we only engage practical steps without praying, then we are theologians. There must be a balance. Spirituality is a balance of the natural and the supernatural. So if at all we are praying, that's not enough. We have practical responsibilities as a church to carry out. Like I've said earlier, in Calabar, Ben Ayade, who is the governor, engaged the church in cutting down taxes in the state of Calabar. We also have, yes, he brought the church into the picture because why? He saw them as people have integrity and sincerity. There was a need for a fiscal engagement. Now, as much as we are praying, the thing is we have a ministry in this country where all the churches are under such a ministry. And that ministry has been given a budget to manage the crisis. Has the ministry ever for once recognized this particular group of people under them as a church? Has the Minister of Territorial Administration called the men of God, saying that we know people have something to offer this nation? What do you guys think can be used as a strategy to solve the crisis? Let us present what we have on ground as our own strategy. When Paul said that the church should go ahead and carry out responsibility, it's not sensible. It is the minister under the minister also calls on certain servants of God and put them down and say, we have this challenge on ground. You are servants of God. What's your opinion about it? Then we're going to tell him what we think we can do. These are backdoor discussions. Because as long as people know we are coming from the government angle, automatically they will not accept it. Because why? The separatists consider anyone that comes from the government angle as not being neutral. But the servants of God, they are possible for them to be neutral as far as the crisis is concerned. Because the church is an apolitical body that doesn't take sides. From the days of Desmond Tutu, we are quoting. Desmond Tutu was a man that stood against apartheid regime in South Africa. People in Congo fought against the manipulation of Laurent Kabila. It was the church. So why is the Church of Cameroon not given the opportunity? The National Dialogue was organized in Yaoundé. The role of the church was to organize opening prayers. The concept, the ideas, the philosophy of the bishops or the pastors asked ever in this nation? That's the question. Did they for once, you go to a nation like Nigeria, even if it's a Muslim man that is control election, he will consult pastors for guidance because there's wisdom. You check in scripture, the king had a challenge in Babylon. I don't know if our own leaders don't read the Bible. What did they do? Bible says he sought for a man called Daniel, was a prophet in the land for direction. Has this nation ever for once consulted the body of Christ for guidance? We are being considered as those who begin and end prayers in occasions. Bishops come to open national dialogue prayer and come to close it. Their ideas are not relevant. Have they for once, they have called civil societies, called journalists, called all kinds of people in national dialogue. Did you hear them call the church? Did they invite the church on any occasion? When somebody has a solution and the solution is not sought after, there's no need to begin to run after people. We have what it takes to solve the crisis, but we are not that cheap to be running after the government. If the government knows our relevance, they should go after us. Simple as ABC. It's as simple as ABC. In the land of Egypt, even though Pharaoh was a man that worshipped a snake, he consulted Joseph for wisdom to solve the crisis for 7 years of dryness. And these people reading Bible, they don't read the Bible to see that it has been solved in many occasions.
Okay, Apostle, when we are talking about standing the gap for this, he says that if only prayers are done,
It
regardless
cannot go.
it is mysticism.
Yes, mysticism.
And if it
Only
is
principles.
actions, and that it is theology.
Yes.
What are those physical steps that needs to accompany the prayers, and how should the prayers be done?
We started talking about going to preach to the people, and I brought the idea, and I was trying to give more explanation into that. I said that in those places there are churches, in those places there are pastors. It's important that the government should recognize the role of the pastors. We come in our midst, we organize ourselves. Government coming to recognize us is not a way to come to buy us. It's important. We are in a state and which is being ruled by a government. So the government has to come and tell the church that, okay, we have failed. We have tried our own, we have failed. It's but normal that the church has to say something, because the church is the representative of God. The church stands for God. So man has failed with all the possible goodwill that they had. Let's now try the solution of God. That's what we are saying. Let us try the solution of God. And one of the solutions of God is to bring peace. To bring peace, not in the way and manners of men, but in the way and manners of God. That's what I'm saying. If they come and support the men of God and give a way forward to the church will organize itself and touch the other people. While we are praying, others are going into the field to talk to those our brothers. We have never said it's going to be an easy task, because the other panelists said that it's fear. It's not about fear. I don't think there are more robust people in the world like the churchmen.
But Apostle,
yes,
why are you people saying limiting your role to just preaching? Why don't you see the church playing the mediating role, that is taking up that role to mediate between the leadership of the government and the leadership of the separatists? Because
it's still preaching, Mr. Leo. When we are talking, it's still preaching, because we want to make the separatists or the government to understand that human or man's solution has failed. So we are coming with even the jargon of the church, the jargon of the Bible, to let them understand that this is what we are saying, this is what we are speaking. It still falls back to preaching, because at this point of time, only the church can come in and bring peace and solve this problem. Because every other man will come with political solutions, in their favors, or to try to play. But the church is coming as a neutral. The church comes to see that blood should not flow again. That's why the church is coming in. And at this point of time, the government should see that they need the church. They have to call for the church to come and intervene into this affair, because it's no more about prayer, because we have been praying. And I'm telling you, if not of the prayers of the church, this thing would have escalated more than what we have seen. Okay. It would have been more than that.
It would have escalated more than what we are seeing, Madam. What do you think that the division that we find in churches also is contributing to the difficulty for the church to effectively act? La division qu'on trouve parmi les églises, oui. Est-ce que c'est ça aussi qui rend la tâche difficile pour les églises?
Oui, en ce moment au Cameroun, tout est divisé. Hein.
Ok.
Il n'y a rien. C'est-à-dire, sitôt qu'on réussit à être 10, 20, après on se retrouve en train de faire les groupes de 5, ainsi de suite. Ça, parce que c'est dû à ceux qui tirent les ficelles. C'est dû à ceux qui sont contre cette union-là. Parce qu'ils savent que quand il y a union, il y a toujours un résultat concluant. Je disais tout à l'heure à mon co-panéliste que réunir des vrais pasteurs et prêtres par l'État sera très difficile. Parce que, si vous vous rappelez, moi je parle toujours du passé, quand la guerre du Nozo venait de commencer. Le prêtre Toumi, Christian Toumi, a pris sur lui, à l'époque, pas comme on envoie les gens maintenant là-bas, il avait pris sur lui d'aller là-bas, causer avec les séparatistes. Tout le monde sait que l'État a dit, le gouvernement a dit non. Tout le monde le sait. Après, on a organisé un dialogue qui était comme un monologue. Parce que, est-ce que les plans que Christian Toumi avait pour aller là-bas ont été pris en compte? On n'a jamais su. Est-ce qu'il y a eu une peur? Parce que les séparatistes sont des êtres humains. Nous tous, nous sommes des créatures de Dieu. Donc, ce qui fait qu'automatiquement, quand on sait que la main de Dieu est quelque part, il y a une petite peur. C'est comme tout à l'heure, je parlais des militaires aussi. Quand on sait qu'un militaire est placé, même s'il n'est pas armé, hein, suffisamment qu'il soit habillé en tenue militaire, on a peur de lui. Quand on sait qu'un vrai homme de Dieu s'engage pour quelque chose, on a peur. Les hommes de Dieu ne sont pas très respectés dans notre pays. Je donne un petit exemple, comme Monseigneur Cléda, qui a trouvé un médicament pour la Covid. Vous savez ce qui s'est passé dans d'autres pays. Mais ici, on a tout camouflé. On a voulu, peut-être s'il y avait moyen même d'arracher son cerveau pour pouvoir exploiter ça personnellement, on aurait dû le faire. Mais ça ne nous coûtait rien de le mettre en avant et de dire, voilà, Monseigneur, il est quoi? Archevêque. Il est archevêque. Ça ne coûtait rien de donner ce titre à cet archevêque que, voilà, chez nous au Cameroun, on a un archevêque qui s'est assis et qui a trouvé un traitement pour la Covid. Donc la même chose que le cardinal Toumi avait fait à l'époque pour proposer comment arrêter la guerre dans le Nozo. C'est comme ça qu'il a été freiné. Mais il ne faut pas les en vouloir. Parce qu'ils savent. Nous tous, on sait que ici, là maintenant, si un vrai homme de Dieu entre ici, se met à genoux là devant la porte pour dire, je vais exorciser cette salle, je ne crois pas que quelqu'un va rester debout. Donc c'est la même chose qu'on sait que non. Si on commence maintenant, les hommes de l'église se réunissent maintenant, ils disent, stop à la guerre du Nozo. Les vrais visages vont sortir.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Madam Chia from Bengui. I think you guys are giving good points there. More grace to you. Madam Chia, good evening to you. Glad to read from you all the way from Bengui. With due respect, please, Apostle Lambe is political and not a realistic background. Prayers is obvious. We are talking about men of God publicly demonstrating with their captive audience to pressurize the government to react. How do you expect the devil to invite the Holy Spirit? These bishops are Lowum of Uganda, Tutu of South Africa, Milingo of Zambia didn't end at background prayers. We're not invited by the oppressor. Apostles, can we be serious? Monzi, okay, still writing from...
Who said they should end with prayers? Are you following the debate?
Good evening, Mr. Leo. The pastor keep on insisting that the Ministry of Territorial Administration should invite the church or men of God secretly to preach or intervene to look for a solution to end the problem, but not guidelines be given to them. And if they go against, I tell you, Condemnation awaits them all. Okay. Samuel is writing from Kumba. No Condemnation. Please, we should respect our men of God. There is the separation between church and state. You cannot wait for the government to sponsor the church to go and preach the gospel. The commission to go and preach the gospel for the transformation of the soul of man is in the hands of the church. Matthew 8:28. Church should do what is right. Have faced the persecution from both the government and Amber. When things were fine, churches organized crusades here and there without the permission from the government authority. Why should they wait on the government now? The power is not the church. The power is in the word of God. Romans 1:16. Okay. You did not tell us where you're writing from and who is writing. Madam Nelly, who is writing from Limbe, says, Mr. Leo, good evening. I don't know what Cameroonians want. I heard one of you in the studio talking about ceasefire by the government. In Kumba, there was no military in schools and children were killed. So why are you guys talking about ceasefire when we are not safe in the hands of these separatist fighters? I think it's high time let's call a spade a spade. Madam Nelly in Kumba, good evening to you. Madam in Limbe, rather. Good evening, Mr. Liu and all the panelists. Pastor, I really love the way you speak, but it's unfortunate that the Minister of Territorial Administration has now taken your place as a pastor. Don't you see the way he always quote the Bible? He thinks he can handle the situation alone because he too is a pastor. Becky is writing from Limbe. Okay, greetings, Boo. You, Ndiwum Ernest, good evening to you. Ernest, good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Kingsley. I'm writing from Batibo. Jesus sent the 70 out without bags or money. Must these people who are equipped with the Holy Spirit wait for permission from the government? Good evening to you, writing from Batibo. Mr. Leo, I'm in love with your program. Keep it up, guys. The government can't never ever call the men of God because they believe in their grandmaster Takang, writing from Tico. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The government don't want to call the church because they know that the church will tell them the truth. Elvis is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Charles from Bamenda. I strongly believe on the fact that the government has the upper hand to remedy this situation of the Northwest and Southwest regions. Okay. The maker writing from mile 16 in Boya says, good evening, panelists. I strongly disagree with Dr. Ernest in Toto. Men of God have died in this struggle. My question to him is that which one is easier for men of God to do, going to Yaoundé or going to the bushes? Okay. Mr. Liu, if the pastors have the monster seat in them, then they should not wait for the government. For writing from Dop in Gokutunja says, I mean used Kumba, the role of the church in the Northwest and Southwest are preached prophetically against war without partiality. The church should build a strong force that is recognized and address the situation and deny any bribe. The church should pray against occultism and occultic powers in Cameroon that are reigning in Cameroon. The church should hold its members accountable. All those who lead delegations to these Anglophone regions are Christians who sit on front seats in our churches. For writing from Ndop, thank you for. Now, as a church also, the potential to move for an end to this conflict through its Christians, because each pastor is heading a congregation of hundreds, thousands of Christians.
Yeah, very true, Mr. Moderator. I want to say that, first of all, if all the pastors, the leaders of the church, they find themselves under one canopy, under one umbrella, because they are people of virtue, they are people of morality and high standard and integrity. And I earlier said here that if all these men of God in their various churches, they preach peace, they preach issues of governance without any fear, they touch the conscience of every Cameroonian, whether the non-state actors or the state actors. All we want is justice and peace. They have a lot of responsibility. We cannot sit and keep on waiting for authorization from the government. But I still feel that they still need that authorization. They need the authorization to do the recognition by the state. They need the recognition to do their job as church leaders. But we have reached a situation whereby every person has a responsibility. That's what I'm saying. Everybody has a responsibility to preach virtue, to preach morality, a sense of sanity. And I feel that, Mr. Moderator, if all the pastors in their various congregations, in all denominations, whether Christian, Muslim, in all denominations stand for the truth, nothing but the truth. They are selfless. They are selfless to tell the people, looking into their eyes, telling them the truth. Because I feel that most of these congregation house state men of God, men in government, and also parents who put to bed the separatists. Because the pain is on the common man. So we should look at things from all junctures. Because the pastors, the clergies, and the Christian, it is their responsibility. It's not only the pastors alone. But if I feel that if the government give the recognition to these men of God, they'll have that mindfulness to do their job the way they're supposed to do. But I still feel that issues of spirituality is something that it comes within the pastors. Issues of spirituality comes within the pastors. It is their responsibility to heal the land more. So I still stand on my views by saying that all our pastors, they have been doing a lot. But we have seen situations where men of God have been caught in some hinterlands. They have been kidnapped. They have been suffering the effect. But we need a communal situation where all men of God can come as a canopy, come with the recognition from the government so that they can draw up their own strategy. Because in during periods of war, there's what we call geopolitics, there's what we call geosecurity. Men of God also need this religious strategy so that they can dilute issues of spirituality and other dynamics to solve the Anglophone problem. I think that if the Minister of Territorial Administration, headed by Mr. Atanganji, give them this responsibility, they can do, because they also need their protection. Because the fear factor is also there. We know of situations where men of God have suffered in the butches. So it is high time now that men of God should also look for different strategies and avoid other persons of the civil society. Like what the co-panelists were saying about the Christian Kagnatumi's commission. That commission was a mixed commission. But if an opportunity was given for that commission, I think that that commission would have rallied all the Anglophones to look for the way forward. But now, I feel that we need a commission whereby we can see religious leaders from all denominations that is being recognized by the government. Because I know that religious leaders are people who are vocal. And people who are vocal can speak the truth, nothing but the truth, so that at the end of the day we solve this Anglophone crisis. What is killing us is the blame game. We need just the truth. We need to be assertive. We need to compromise to solve this problem.
Okay, at the level, even before the government recognizes the potential for men of God to seek a solution or to assist the government to engage in finding a lasting solutions to this problem, can we also look at the messages that are being preached by the men of God themselves, because that is where it starts. Those are the seeds that are being planted. The message of peace, the message of judgment, the message of condemnation, message of tolerance. Should it also start at that level?
You know, Mr. Leo, we preach peace. Jesus said in the book of Matthew 14 verse 27 that the peace I leave to you is not like the one of the world. We preach peace. And I will use this opportunity to say this, that one of the methods we have to solve this crisis is that each and every one of us should be able to be carrier of the message of peace. That is, as we are talking about peace to the churches, let us as individuals, because both in the government, like the people in the bushes, they all have families. We know them. So if your brother is somewhere, one of the separatists, and you start talking to him about peace, somehow, even if the brother is radicalized, that message will be a seed in the spirit. And the accumulation of many seeds will make one day the rain of peace will also fall into his life. So I believe this is one thing we should start making as propaganda. That is, we as individuals, as people, we should learn. It's not only at the level of the pastors, but we should start talking peace among ourselves. It's no more time for us to start looking at who to blame, who to apportion the blame. But let's come with a new speech, that is the speech of peace, so that even the people in the government, because there are some people who believe that the government has the monopoly of violence, that the government is not supposed to sit down and talk and negotiate. No. The government should also understand it is true they have the monopoly of violence, but time is time for peace. is a message of peace that should be going along. No more of these people did that, because this is what we need for now in the country.
Okay. Yes. Should men of God also try to coin the messages, because already men of God are seen now along the lines of either pro-government and pro-Amba. Should men of God actually take their neutral positions, like we talk of traditional rulers and a host of others?
You see, what about men of God in this context, we are not actually specific. There are men of God coming from the restive regions who are victims of this particular crisis. They already have a stand. So if we are talking about men of God, we should be talking about the national territory.
Okay.
We should talk about national territory. I wish to ask that if we are talking about servants of God in the country, are we talking about those of the restive region?
No, everybody. We are talking about the church.
Good. We are talking about the church.
Yes.
But I will tell you that most of the people from the restive region are one way or the other affected by the crisis. That for us, first and foremost, to come to a consensus and work with them to comply to the demand that there should be a settlement of peace amongst the separatists and the state, many of them will not accept. I think we should be able to define the men of God in context, who are supposed to take over the responsibility to run along with the issue of peace. Because there are servants of God whose families have been killed. There are others who have died. There are others whose mothers have been killed. They are nursing bitterness against it, even though they may not come public to say it. How do you approach that kind of case? It's a bit different. So I think if we are talking about servants of God approaching this issue, we should be able to define the particular categories of servants of God who are approaching the case. How do we do this? First, the men of God who are already grieved as far as the crisis is concerned. It's only men of God that can bring them to a place of reasoning. So the government should use the ones who are not wounded to heal those who are wounded. That's the first thing. If a pastor approaches a pastor, it will be easier for that pastor to approach the family. Now, if the government, we are not saying that government should call us as a result of the fact that we cannot speak. The issue is the government has recognized almost every other sector in this country. They have called politicians and even TV panelists to come for national dialogue. Did you ever hear them call the church as a body to come there? What sort of disrespect and disregard is that for the church? We will not make ourselves too cheap because we want to solve a problem. The government has to recognize the fact that the church is of great value to the country. And when they are making their programs every time in this country, they should coin the church and give the church a seat in that program. We are not desperate to participate in solving the crisis. If they recognize our importance, they should get to us and seek our consent. That is the respect we deserve. We are not asking their money. The church in this country is not that hungry. They cannot sponsor ourselves to go and deliberate on crisis. But I think that recognition, that if they are serving an invitation for other societies and civil and bodies in the country, they should serve the invitation for the church, recognizing the church. That's what we are talking about. Now, how does the church get into this crisis? It's as simple as ABC, Mr. Liu. When we are solving crisis in the country, we cannot say everything on television. Most of the things that are used to solve crisis, as a matter of fact, are not publicly displayed. This wisdom is demanded sometimes to keep your facts on the ground. Only go into action. If the government saw the servants of God as a weapon in this country, they were supposed to have worked with them on the ground. If they make it public, the opposite can automatically know. If you are coming from the government, it means you have taken bribe, of which we might not have taken bribe. So I'm trying to make them understand that when we solve conflicts in countries, we don't solve conflict at any ground. I realize that most of the time when conflicts are solved, the real meetings that solve those conflicts are never published. But we say almost everything on air. Foul gas is on air in Cameroon. We cook cocoa is on air. The minister is going to Kumba is on air. That is not how they solve conflict in countries. If the government has to use the men of God in this country, they must make it appear neutral.
Madame Ngo, est-ce que vous avez l'impression que si l'État et puis vous aussi les politiques et la société civile confiaient la tâche à l'Église, objectivement, ils peuvent réussir à je ne sais pas, éteindre le feu qui s'abat sur le Cameroun? Est-ce que l'Église peut le faire?
En tant que chrétienne, je crois que oui. En tant que chrétienne, je crois que l'Église a la capacité d'éteindre le feu. Parce que si on a affaire, comme je le disais tantôt, aux vrais hommes de Dieu, ornés les bonbons pasteurs, comme on dit, et qu'ils se mettent ensemble, parce que ça c'est très important. Parce que vous aurez ceux qui vont prier pour la plaie et ceux qui vont prier pour leurs intérêts personnels. Mais s'ils se mettent ensemble, qu'ils savent qu'ils sont en symbiose, je crois et je suis convaincue qu'on aura une solution. Parce que, je le disais tantôt, n'oubliez pas que la population du Nozo est une population assez chrétienne. C'est-à-dire la population, ils ont l'amour de Dieu et ils ont le respect de son frère, le respect de son vis-à-vis. Donc, moi, l'église dans laquelle je suis est une église pratiquement anglophone. Donc, ce qui veut dire que c'est les gens qui savent servir Dieu, qui savent le respecter et qui ont sa peur. Donc, ce qui veut dire que si on a affaire à des vrais, parce que quand on va dire ça, que les gens nous organisent, qu'on appelle les pasteurs, on va aller appeler mon cousin qui est pasteur là-bas au village, qui est d'accord avec moi, parce que ce sera la même chose que le dialogue national. C'est-à-dire, on appelle les pasteurs qui sont d'accord avec nos pensées, sans regarder, faire l'équilibre. Il faut les pasteurs un peu neutres, les pasteurs qui demandent juste le cessez-le-feu, parce que c'est ça qui est important. Et maintenant, quand il y a le cessez-le-feu, les pasteurs qui demandent un vrai dialogue. Moi, je suis convaincu que ça peut marcher. Mais alors, pour qu'on en arrive là, c'est ça le problème. Donc, le problème sera, comment allons-on organiser ça? Ce sera toujours une sortie de grosses voitures, de toujours nos impôts qu'on va toujours sortir pour dire, bon, tel pasteur doit avoir 5 millions pour son déplacement et tout, et tout, et tout. Pour le carburant, ok. Oui, pour le carburant. Et à la fin, c'est notre argent qui va toujours sortir et pendant que nous mourrons de faim, il n'y aura pas la fin de la guerre.
Okay. Apostle Collins is asking if there is a part 2. Then I will be there. There is going to be a part 2 because in these 2 weeks I'm going to do 3 editions for Men of God on this crisis. Let us discuss with Cameroonians on what the men of God can do to solve or to help solve the crisis. Mr. Leo, good evening to you and your panel. You are doing a wonderful job to put this country on rails. This government knows what to do, but she has taken her stance to end the war with the barrel of the gun. It's not like the government doesn't know what to do. Mr. George is writing from Douala here. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Yes, it is true. The church should be given a chance to end the crisis, but since Archbishop Emeritus Christian Cardinal Tumi started crying of dialogue, has his request been granted? Okay, he says we greatly appreciate your program here in DOP. Good evening to everybody watching us from DOP and to the Senior Divisional Officer from Ketunja, Ketong Henderson. Okay, good evening, Mr. Liu. Barry, let all the pastors call for an open carry across all the territory of Cameroon by 12 p.m., invoking the power in the name of Jesus to the freedom of the land. Mr. Roland, writing from Douala in Bonaberi, Monsieur Liu is Nozo, not hate speech. Nozo means northwest and southwest regions. This one, it says there is a separation between church and state. Okay. Good evening to you. Stop the calls. When you call, I can't read. Good evening, Mr. Kum. The church should do its job without being in politics. The pastors are not being true to themselves. Okay. Mr. Liu, please tell the pastors to come together like one and discuss a solution hand to the head of state and the separatists with their signatures as well as the press. Von Augustine is writing from Bamenda. Somebody, Atta, is writing from Bamenda asking me to give the apostle's number to you. Just write to me after the program. I will send you his number. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The truth is only God's intervention will help this nation, because the big government officials don't want this crisis to end. Okay, David Ngome is writing from Limbe. God bless you, Mr. Leo. This program is great. The truth is that the church or men of God can make meaningful contributions to solving this problem if they are officially invited by the government. Secondly, the men of God need to unite to have one voice, and this way, with or without an invitation, they can influence the nation. Pastor Cho Clovis is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think the men of God should not wait on the government to do the right thing. The men of God should take the lead. Then the government will accompany them. John is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Let the government solve the problem and all will be fine. Immaculate is writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I really love your program. Keep on that spirit. Thank you very much. Like it or not, God has nothing to do with this crisis. He can't solve it. Same as the devil, he has nothing to do with the crisis. He can't solve it either. This is a man-made and only we can solve it. This is Sam Vincent writing from Boyac. This goes to Apostle Ambe. How do you expect the devil to invite the Holy Spirit? Okay. This one says, good evening, Mr. Leo. All what I can get you people talking is only men of God going to the hinterland to preach to the Amber fighters. What negative have they carried out that is different from the professional military? Why can't men of God preach to the military also? Are men of God going to the hinterland to tell them that government have called off the war or is ready for dialogue? Civilians suffering only in the hands of separatists. Please, government, only you have the solution. Clement is writing from Yaoundé. Hello, please. Good evening. I'm Cho writing from Bamenda. Please, if come here on the ground, you would discover that the military and Amber boys are afraid of each other, so tend to pour their angers to the commoners. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all those in the panel. Special greetings to Apostle, who is one of the sincere men of God I have ever seen. Looking out our men of God today, out of 100, just 5 are truly men of God, called by Holy Spirit. Most of them are using this as a means of income, and besides, we do not expect the devil to invite angels to quench the fire burning in hell. Omar is writing from Boya. Mr. Leo, good evening. I love your program of today. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The men of God have done their best. The government is with a lot of the church will keep on praying. The end time of the top jobs in Cameroon is near. Fred is writing from Fred Fang, writing from Tico. I want us to look at the last topic for tonight, which has to do with the elections, presidential elections in Cote d'Ivoire, that has seen the victory of Draman Ouattara Alassane. He won the landslide victory with 94% of the vote. But just to tell our televiewers that I'm sure by Friday we are going to do another edition. Either Thursday or Friday we are going to do another edition with Men of God here. And then next week we are going to do another edition with Men of God here. They say they have been silenced. Their voices have not been heard enough as far as finding a solution to this crisis is concerned. At My Media Prime TV, we give chances to everybody to come and talk. If you think that you people have a problem in whatever sector and you want people to hear about it, call me, tell me, I'll invite you guys here to talk. Tomorrow, possibly, I'm expecting the people of Mutengene from the 2 camps who are fighting on the land, Bonganjo land or Isbuinga, whatever. I said last week that I'm expecting them here in the studio, the 2 camps, to come and let us clear the air and make peace, because people are suffering when 2 elephants are fighting. So I expect the people of Mutengene to be here tomorrow. And wherever you are, if you have problems, please let us know. The head teachers in Kumba are complaining that their running credits are being chopped off by SDOs, the DOs, and other finance controllers, and that they are receiving just a pinch of what is coming from Yaoundé. One day we are going to be receiving the head teachers here to explain and tell the world what is happening. The students of GBHS EDEA are complaining, especially Anglophone students, who say that they pay PTA fees and they don't have enough teachers to teach them, and there are lots and lots of problems in EDEA. If God permits, I'm going to come down to EDEA to also find out what is happening. We need to give opportunity to everybody to say what they are going through. But now, Alassane Ouattara winning with 94% of the votes in Cote d'Ivoire. Is it to say that after Jesus Christ is Ouattara in Cote d'Ivoire?
Was there an election in Cote d'Ivoire? That's the first thing we have to ask. The persons who were supposed to contest with Ouattara, Francois Afin-Guessam of the Bagbo's party, and Konam Bidied, who has once been the president of Cote d'Ivoire, were not part of that election. It is Konan Kodio Beteng. That was a young man of 51 years old. That was the only party that contested with Ouattara, scoring 2%, and then they gave 1% to Konam Bidied and 1% to Afin-Guessam, who refused to contest for elections. When the Electoral Commission was consulted, that a lot of polling stations did not participate. They said out of 22,381 polling stations, only 50 did not vote. Thief. Thief, I say again, Electoral Commission of Cote d'Ivoire, thief. Number two, you send out 35,000 police people into the city and other parts of the country to control elections. Will you have an electoral body to control elections or police people? Another act of theft. So you to have scored 94%, it has never occurred. I think because of what has happened in Cote d'Ivoire, I will be happy to say there's some democracy in Cameroon. Because I've never seen an election where even if the landslide victory is what, a president scored 94%. And I heard what one of his interview was saying that Cote d'Ivoire is still a young nation. If a country has been up to 60 years is still a young nation, it means all the 60 years old persons in Cote d'Ivoire will greet you as newborn babies. Because your minds and your faculties are like the faculties of a child. You call an old country which is 60 years, you say it's still a young country coming up, and we're cutting Angela Merkel. Angela Merkel, what she's doing in Democracy, have you done in Cote d'Ivoire? I don't think that thing that was done in Cote d'Ivoire is an election. 9 persons have died on Saturday after the elections took place, and more persons have died as the days are going by. How can a man who came to power and was given the opportunity to rule for 2 terms by 2016 change the constitution and then decided to go for a 3rd term, which was even against the constitution? All the political parties that were opposition denied to go for elections. You decided to go and were voted alone. 23% of the stronghold of the political parties there were no elections. Many people were being humiliated and beaten at the voting site because they wanted to keep you in power as a stooge. What they are keeping Ouattara to do in Cote d'Ivoire is just far beyond Cote d'Ivoire. It's the entire West Africa.
Okay, you followed the elections results, and to say that Ouattara is extremely loved by his people.
This is a Soviet Union kind of result.
Okay.
I remember they used to get this kind of result during the Soviet Union times. No, we should stop this kind of move. As a man of God, I believe the Bible says in Matthew 26:52, he who killed by the sword will die by the sword. And looking at how things are unfolding, I'm seeing that what Ouattara did to Gbagbo is the same thing that will happen to him, because the way things are going, the crisis that they had in 2010 before Ouattara came to power, that's the same crisis taking place now 10 years after. So the same demons are coming back because that man took the power that way. So he too has to leave the power the same way. So it's no news, it's not a new thing for some of us who are looking at it. But we are seeing Africa 60 years after the independence. It's a shame that we still look at these kind of things. It's a big shame. We are grown up, we are in the era of technology, we're in the 21st century. What happens in Cote d'Ivoire at the very minute is known in Cameroon, is known in the US. So we don't see it possible that African leaders, some of the African leaders are still behaving as if we are still in the 20th century, that they will manipulate the mind of the people, they will hide things and come and declare what they want. There are many people who have been taking videos in the police station and sent to the people so that population can see what really took place during that election. So for me, it's a shame and a disgrace.
Okay, c'est shame and a disgrace. Madame Go, ok, c'est pas. Hein,
non, Ngo n'est pas un nom.
Ngo Bateki.
Voilà.
Oui, c'est Marie-Ange.
Oui.
Ok, Marie-Ange, oui. Quelles leçons pour la démocratie africaine?
Est-ce qu'il y a la démocratie en Afrique? Surtout la démocratie en Afrique, surtout dans les pays dits francophones. Je ne crois pas. Parce que nous avons été colonisés par la France et que au début, c'était normal parce que nous étions peut-être incultes et tout et tout. Maintenant, au lieu qu'il y ait un changement par rapport à ceux qui comprennent maintenant ce que c'est qu'un Africain, ce que c'est que l'intérêt d'un Africain par un Africain, on reste avec les vieillards qui étaient à l'époque de la colonisation et qui continuent à perpétuer cette colonisation. Donc du coup, il ne peut pas avoir de changement en Afrique francophone. On a un président qui a été élu il y a des années en Côte d'Ivoire et on l'a vu humilié, on a vu comment on l'a déshabillé. Moi, je vais vous dire, à l'époque, je suivais les débats panafricains, mais dès l'histoire de Gbagbo, je vous assure, je me suis demandé si Dieu existe dans la politique. Parce que c'était un monde vision où on voyait l'injustice. Aujourd'hui, vous pouvez imaginer, comme disait mon frère, mais le Cameroun a au moins eu, c'était soit 11%. 94% pour un pays qui est en guerre. Pour un pays où les gens sont en train de mourir à chaque instant. Il a gagné à 94%. Il y a de quoi révolter les habitants de la Côte d'Ivoire. Il y a de quoi révolter. C'est-à-dire, j'ai lu quelque part tout à l'heure qu'on a envoyé la force de sécurité arrêter Colambédier. Il a refusé de sortir. Parce qu'effectivement, s'il faut que l'histoire se répète comme on avait fait avec Gbagbo et tout. Mais bon, moi, pour lui, je ne peux pas dire qu'il a ce qu'il mérite. Parce que s'il y a des choses aujourd'hui, mais bon, mais nous avons vu comment le président Gbagbo a été humilié. Nous avons vu la guerre. Nous avons vu comment l'opposition s'est montrée contre Ouattara. Mais il y a une chose que j'ai aimée. Pendant que Gbagbo était à la CPI, il y avait le calme en Côte d'Ivoire. Personne, enfin, je ne sais pas, peut-être je n'ai pas été informé, mais il n'y a jamais eu un attentat, il n'y a jamais eu un affrontement pendant le règne de Ouattara. On l'a laissé faire parce que je me dis que ces gens aimaient leur pays. Et même qu'il a été décidé qu'il doit partir, c'est lui-même, on ne lui a même pas demandé de partir, c'est lui qui s'est levé, il a dit non, je ne fais plus un second mandat, un troisième mandat, et après, mais attendez, c'est-à-dire, nous vivons dans quel monde? Nous sommes un monde si satanique que quelqu'un manque à mon vision, il fait des choses inexplicables, comme nous au Cameroun, on est dirigé aujourd'hui par une photo, et tout le monde dit oui, c'est comme ça que ça doit se faire. Mais arrêtons.
Ok, il faut arrêter. Now, what do you see in the future of Côte d'Ivoire? Because as Ouattara declares himself or is declared winner by the Independent Electoral Commission, that is also something that we should question, how they worked so well to give 94% victory to a candidate. But how do you see the future of Côte d'Ivoire with the formation of a transitional government headed by Henry Konan Bédié, and already information that he is said to have been arrested?
To be candid, when I picturize the future of that country from my mental map, I want to say it's blur.
Okay.
It's blur in the sense that the opposition will not give up. There are people like Guillaume Soro and others. There are a lot of them. They will not give up. And I want to say that it's high time our African leaders think of legacy. There are some virtues that are very, very, very important. What legacy will you keep tomorrow? Legacy is my watchword for African leaders. It's very, very important in leadership. So what legacy? Nelson Mandela came and fought for apartheid. He was there just for a mandate. He kept a legacy. And today we are still calling his name. What legacy would Alassane Ouattara keep in that country? I want to also talk of the issue of transparency. Transparency is very, very important in the electoral process. And I want to say that we lack strong institutions. If we have independent electoral commissions, strong institutions like in Côte d'Ivoire, we will not be having the kind of results we are having. It's bizarre. And I want to talk of representative democracy. When you look at representative democracy, it is the people who give you power. It is the people who vote. And most of the youths were against him. To tell him that when you look at demography in terms of population, you understand that the demography of that country is mostly the youths. And the youths were against you. You said you were not to run for the elections. And then you came in again for a 10th mandate. What legacy? And I will be ending by saying that the issue of new colonialism, whether we like it or not, we have to decolonize everything. Our mindset must change. Africans' mindset must change. If you look at new colonialism, he has his godfathers, whether we like it or not, from France. He has his godfathers. There are people who have put him there. And African must change, have that mentality of the African way. There are people like Gaddafi who wanted the African way. They were put, when you look at the North Atlantic Trade Union, I feel that African is high time. African have a mindset of their own. African leaders come together to change the paradigm. African youths come out together to change the paradigm, because you cannot have 94 in an election. It doesn't. That means if you're in the classroom, and they give an exams, and let me say they give an exam and you alone have 100%, and the other students have about three. Let me answer. They have about 3% or 4%. There are issues in exam that are called validity. There's a problem of validity. The content, did you measure the content you wanted to measure? There's an issue of reliability. Was there consistency? Okay. And let me say, if another election is called up, you will see that there's a gap. Okay. And you'll be able to solve that problem. African leadership needs legacy. Okay.
Unfortunately, we have to end here. The messages are really so many, but we don't have time to read them. Apostle, as we end, what is the watchword you have for the people of Côte d'Ivoire?
Igbago Wasara can have 94%. It means it's like Frundi winning in Cameroon Jai Lobo. It means Frundi won in Pobia's village to score that kind of percent. That means Ouattara must have won right in the village of Konam Bidie. Francois Afingesa, Kwado Konam Beteng. In those villages, he must have won. Then it means nobody voted against him. Ivorians, you knew what you did for the other people who came to power, like Robert Gay in the 1999. You know what you did for Gbagbo. You should know what to do for Ouattara.
Yes, the future of Côte d'Ivoire.
Oh, we are just praying for Côte d'Ivoire. But I said the same demons are coming, and we will not be surprised that what happened to Gbagbo will also happen to Ouattara. But we want peace.
You want peace. Le futur, qu'est-ce que vous voyez dans les semaines, des mois à venir dans la Côte d'Ivoire?
Je suis un peu égoïste. Pourquoi je vais parler de la Côte d'Ivoire quand il n'y a pas la paix au Cameroun?
Ok, allez-y.
Moi, ce que j'attirerais l'attention, que ce soit des sécessionnistes ou bien de l'État, c'est de protéger les enfants qui vont à l'école, de protéger les enseignants, que si, par exemple, Kumba les a échappés et Kumbo les échappe aussi, qu'ils essayent cette fois-ci de mettre soit l'armée à l'entrée des périphériques des établissements pour protéger les enfants qui vont à l'école. Parce que si aujourd'hui on a décapité les enfants, Aujourd'hui, on a enlevé les enseignants. On ne sait pas ce que nous réserve le futur. Donc, au lieu de militariser le domicile du président élu Kamto à Yaoundé, qu'on enlève ces policiers qui sont là-bas et qu'on les installe devant les enfants pour protéger les enfants. En ce qui concerne la Côte d'Ivoire, ce sont les Ivoiriens.
Okay, c'est eux qui doivent décider. Yes, the future.
The future of Cote d'Ivoire, Mr. Moderator, I will not call for political instability, but I want to say that when wrong leaders are put in position of governance, what do you expect?
Okay.
We pray for peace in that country and peace in Cameroon. Thank you.
We want to thank you guys for coming and animating the program this evening, and also to you guys, the production team, Desmond, Christian, Eli, and to you, Tabi, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising our work out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye. Mutengene tomorrow.